Imagine a journey back in time, not just centuries, but millennia. We travel to a world nestled between two great oceans, a verdant isthmus connecting continents. Here in the humid lowlands, volcanic highlands of what we now call Mesoamerica, a new human story began to unfold. Around 2000 BCE, small, scattered groups of hunter-gatherers started to look at the world differently. They weren't just passing through the landscape anymore, they were becoming part of it. They learned to domesticate plants, a revolutionary act that anchored them to the earth. This wasn't a sudden flash of insight, but a slow, patient dance with nature. This monumental shift was all thanks to a plant of humble origin, maize corn. A wild grass called teosinte transformed through generations of careful selection. As we move forward on our timeline, we enter the Classic period from roughly 250 to 900 CE. This is the golden age, the time when Maya civilization truly bloomed. The early villages transformed into sprawling urban centers, veritable constellations of human ingenuity scattered across the jungle. Cities like Tikal, Calakmul, Copan, Palenque rose from the forest floor, their skylines dominated by towering pyramids that reached for the heavens. These were not just places to live, they were cosmic engines designed to align with celestial events. Their temples were observatories, their plazas were stages for ritual, and their causeways were arteries connecting a vibrant, living organism of a city. The architecture was a marvel of engineering and artistry. Without metal tools, without beasts of burden, or without the wheel, the Maya quarried massive limestone blocks and raised them to staggering heights. Among the greatest achievements of the Maya, one stands out for its sheer intellectual brilliance, their writing system. For centuries, the intricate symbols carved on stone monuments painted on pottery were a profound mystery. We saw them as beautiful, complex art, but their meaning was lost to us like a forgotten language from a distant star. It was only through the patient work of epigraphers in the latter half of the 20th century that we finally cracked the code. We learned these weren't just pictures. This was a true written language, a sophisticated logo-syllabic system. The Maya script is a combination of logograms, syllabograms. This flexibility allowed scribes to write the same word in multiple ways, creating visual richness. They wrote on everything. They carved stories onto towering stone stelae. They inscribed dynastic histories on stairways, lintels, thrones. They painted cosmic narratives on ceramic vessels. They wrote in accordion-folded codices made from fig bark paper. Only 4 known codices survive today. It's like understanding a civilization from just a handful of encyclopedia pages. For the Maya, time was not a simple, linear progression from past to future. It was a living, cyclical entity, a sacred force with its own personality and divine patrons. They were master timekeepers, developing interlocking calendars of breathtaking complexity. Their celestial mechanics were so advanced that their solar year calculation exceeded contemporary European accuracy. This obsession with time wasn't just intellectual, it was the foundation of their religion. The Maya used several calendars at once. First, the 260-day sacred Tzolk'in. Second, the 365-day solar Hab. The two calendars ran in parallel, like interlocking gears. For long-term history, they used the long count. The long count began at a mythical starting point. The long count completed a Baktun on December 21, 2012. For the Maya, it was not an end but a renewal, the cosmic odometer turning. A king chose ascension or war only on auspicious days. Rituals, including bloodletting and human sacrifice, occurred at precise moments to nourish the gods and maintain cosmic balance. The universe, they believed, required human intervention. Time was not to be passively observed, it was to be actively engaged with, a sacred rhythm maintained through ritual and reverence. Maya society was structured like one of their pyramids, with a divine king at the apex and a broad base of commoners supporting the entire edifice. It was a deeply hierarchical system, where one's position in the cosmos was largely determined by birth. At the very top was the Kuhul Ajah, or Holy Lord. The king was not merely a political leader, he was a divine figure, a shaman who could communicate with the gods and ancestors. He was the Axis Mundi, the world tree, connecting the celestial plane, the earthly world, and the watery underworld, known as Xibalba. His health and success were directly linked to the prosperity of his entire kingdom. Below the king was a stratum of elites, nobles, priests, accomplished warriors. Further down the social ladder were the specialists and artisans, skilled craftspeople who created magnificent pottery, jade carvings, feathered textiles. The vast majority of the population, perhaps over 90%, were the commoners. These were the farmers who toiled in the fields, cultivating the maize, beans, squash that fed everyone. For the average Maya family, life revolved around a few fundamental pillars: farming, family, faith. The daily orbit began before sunrise, when the men would head out to the fields. The primary method, slash and burn, or milpa, cutting down sections of forest, burning to clear land and create ash-rich soil. A labor-intensive process: stone axes, wooden digging sticks. The three sisters: maize, beans, squash, a nutritionally complementary trio. The harvest could mean life or death, success tied to religious observance. While men worked the fields, women were the household heart. Processing maize was a daily, hours-long task. Formed into tortillas or tamales, women raised children, tended household gardens, herbs and fruit trees, wove cotton textiles. Family was the core unit, extended family compounds around a central patio, a network for childcare, farming, and daily tasks. Trade connected distant cities and ecological zones, local markets, surplus crops and pottery, long-distance trade often controlled by the elite. Highland goods, jade, obsidian, quetzal feathers, coastal goods, salt, dried fish, seashells. Trade exchanged goods and ideas, weaving a shared cultural fabric. Let's pause our journey in the late 8th century CE. This is the moment of the Maya civilization's greatest brilliance, the late Classic peak. The population across the southern lowlands reached its highest point. Millions lived in and around the great cities, the jungles of Guatemala, Belize, southern Mexico. The scale of human activity was immense. Cities like Tikal swelled to perhaps 60,000 to 90,000 inhabitants. Ceremonial cores blazing with activity. Agricultural hinterlands expertly managed to feed the masses. This was the age of the great kings. Their names and deeds are now known from deciphered stelae. The art of this period reached a level of sophistication never surpassed. The architecture reached unmatched refinement. The writing reached unparalleled sophistication. Maya astronomers worked from observatories like the Caracol at Chichen Itza, Venus, Sun, Moon. They developed complex mathematical concepts, including the revolutionary idea of zero. This knowledge wasn't just for show. They could predict eclipses. They could time their agricultural cycles. And most importantly, it helped legitimize rulers' power. This was a world brimming with confidence and creative energy. Trade networks moved goods and ideas across vast distances. Competition between city-states, while often violent, spurred artistic and architectural one-upmanship. For a brief, brilliant period, the Maya world was a vibrant mosaic of powerful kingdoms, a civilization at the absolute zenith of cultural, intellectual, and artistic expression. It must have seemed as though this golden age would last forever. Their cities were as eternal as the stars they so carefully watched. But it did not last. As we move our ship of the imagination into the 9th and 10th centuries, we witness something startling and tragic. The great cities of the southern lowlands began to fail. The cosmic clock seemed to stutter and then stop. The construction of massive temples and monuments ceased. The carving of dynastic histories on stelae came to an end. One by one, the vibrant urban centers were abandoned, their stone palaces and plazas left to be reclaimed by the relentless jungle. This was the terminal classic collapse, one of the most enduring mysteries in archaeology. Most scientists now believe it was a cascade of interlocking failures, a perfect storm. One leading culprit is severe, prolonged drought. Evidence comes from lakebed sediments and cave formations that record dry decades. For a civilization utterly dependent on rainfall, this was catastrophic. Failed harvests would lead to malnutrition, disease, and a breakdown of the social order, undermining kings' authority. This stress was worsened by Maya success. Population growth put intense pressure on the land. Widespread deforestation to clear land for agriculture, burning lime for construction projects, which caused soil erosion. Resources grew scarce and competition intensified. Evidence shows an increase in warfare during the late Classic. Fortifications were built around cities that had once been open. Conflict may have escalated into destructive warfare, disrupting trade routes and making life untenable. The collapse was a process that unfolded over more than a century. Divine kingship, the promise to maintain cosmic order and to bring prosperity, began to break down. When rains failed and crops withered, people lost faith in leaders. Rituals and sacrifices no longer seemed to work. People voted with their feet, abandoning great cities, melting back into the countryside, forming smaller, more sustainable communities. The great southern cities fell silent, ghost cities that would puzzle us for 1,000 years. The collapse of the classic southern cities was not the end of the Maya story, it was a transformation. As the south declined, cities in the northern Yucatan Peninsula rose to prominence. Chichen Itza, Mayapan, carrying the torch of Maya culture for several more centuries. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they did not find an empty jungle. They found a resilient and defiant Maya people. The conquest was a long and brutal affair. But even after their cities were subjugated, Maya culture refused to vanish. It adapted, blended, and survived in the face of immense pressure. Today, the Maya are still here. More than 6 million Maya people live in their ancestral homelands: Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador. They are not relics of the past living in a museum. They are vibrant modern communities speaking dozens of distinct Mayan languages and maintaining cultural traditions that have been passed down for millennia. Many still practice forms of agriculture, weaving, community organization. They are farmers, teachers, doctors, activists, fighting for their rights and the preservation of their heritage in the modern world. The ancient knowledge, though much was lost, still echoes. Traditional beliefs often coexist and blend with Christianity in a unique syncretism. Daykeepers, spiritual guides who have mastered the 260-day sacred calendar, still provide guidance to their communities. The stories of the hero twins from the Popol Vuh are still told. The connection to the land and especially to maize remains a central pillar of Maya identity. The past is not a foreign country for them, it is a living part of their present. So when we look at the silent ruins of Tikal or Palenque, we should not see them as the tombs of a vanished people. We should see them as milestones in a continuous, 4,000-year-long story. The legacy of the Maya is written not only in the stones of their pyramids but also in the faces, languages, and traditions of their millions of descendants. They are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of culture. Their cosmic journey, from the first cornfields to the great cities of the stars, and into the complex world of today, is one of the grandest epics in the story of our species on this planet.